Yo guys, what is good and welcome back on the channel. Now in today's video I'm gonna be reviewing the Grid plugin from Haze, which is a creative halftime effect that is pretty similar to the regular halftime. So I'm gonna talk about the pricing, I'm gonna show you relevant plugins that are similar to this. I'm gonna give you a quick demo of what the plugin can do, explain all the features, play with a few examples, and then obviously we're gonna come to the cookup section where I do 2 loops with this, and after that we come to the final conclusion where I'll tell you what I personally think about this plugin, if it's worth it, if you should get it. Now, if you're only interested in a certain section or you only want to hear the final results or the final thoughts I have, you can always use the chapters I provided down below to jump between the different sections. But now let's jump straight into it. Alright, so here we are on the website of Haze. This is what the sales page for Grid looks like. Pretty standard. Nothing really to talk about besides the price of 19 euros. And also something that me personally I find it a little bit weird is that you buy either a Mac or a Windows version. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but you know, if you purchase the plugin, make sure that you select the right operating system right here, because otherwise obviously you won't be able to install the plugin. Now this is what the original halftime looks like. You've probably seen this already about 1,000 times. A pretty standard layout. And this only costs 10 euros or $12, so it's definitely less expensive than the Grid plugin. And we're gonna talk about how big of a difference there is actually with halftime and the Grid plugin, because the effect it has is pretty similar. Now, something I also want to show you is the Deja Vu plugin, which is made by Cymatics. I feel a little bit bad recommending this, because it's literally just a copy-paste of the original halftime plugin, but it's free. So in case you don't have any halftime effect at all, but you will want to get into it, definitely make sure to grab the Deja Vu plugin from Cymatics. Now, with that said, let's jump into Ableton and check out the actual plugin. Alright, now this is what the plugin looks like. We have a preset browser up here where we can select different presets and also create our own. We have 3 buttons right here, either 1 bar, a half a bar or a quarter bar. And then we have this grid, which is the difference between this plugin and all the other halftime plugins on the market. Down here, we basically select the resolution of our grid, so either it's 4 bars long, 8 bars long or 16 bars long. We also have the option to randomize the curve that we put into the grid, and we can also reset it just to the standard value. Now, something I almost forgot to mention is this low pass and high pass filter down here, so if we want, we can also apply these. Right here, I've got a melody loaded up that I did. This is what it sounds like without any processing at all. And now, if we just enable the Grid plugin and we have everything on default, this is what it sounds like. So we can still hear the original melody, but we can also hear like a halftime layer underneath. And that is because this grid, or this line, is controlling the amount of halftime that we apply to this sample. So if we drag it all the way up here, we have 100% halftime. And vice versa, if we drag it all the way down, the halftime effect is at 0% and it's basically the dry signal. Now with this we can do really interesting effects, because we can basically shift the amount of halftime or dry wetness of the halftime signal in really creative ways. So for example, something like this could be possible. Now, we can also make this shorter. I can also use a different time signature for the halftime effect. Or we can just hit the random button and see what it comes up with. Now, I found the random feature to be super cool and super inspiring, and actually the main selling point of this plugin. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that it randomizes everything except for the amount of points in the grid. So for example, right now I put in 3 points, and if I hit randomize, it's gonna do curves with 3 points basically. And if I add 2 more points, so we have 5, it also uses 5 points to create random automation. If you only want to have something basic, maybe just put in 3 or 4 different points, so it doesn't overdo it as much. Now, one thing that you have to keep in mind is that this grid only automates the dry wet of the halftime effect. And if we look at the original halftime and we load it up, you can see there's actually a button down here that says mix. So basically grid automates this button. And now if we're in Ableton, something we can do if we have only the original halftime is we can just, you know, extend the plugin like this, and we can go to mix and we say show automation, and boom, now we can automate the automation inside an automation lane in Ableton. And we get exactly, really, I tested it, exactly the same effect. So when Haze claims that this is gonna reinvent the way you look at halftime, it's really not because Grid does something that, you know, has never been possible with halftime or that has never been done before, but because it brings the focus to automating dry and wet button and also making it a lot easier. Now with that being said, I feel like this is especially useful if you're using it on individual layers rather than whole melodies. Because with the halftime effect, a lot of people just use it to create B section for their melodies, or, you know, to make stuff a little bit more interesting. But I feel like when you use the mix automation too much on like a full melody that also has bass underneath and, you know, just a lot of stuff going, it's really not going to sound as good as if you only put it on certain layers or certain smaller elements and add some really interesting texture and effect to them. So that's exactly what we're gonna do next when we actually cook up our own loop. So let's go straight into it. Alright, now I feel like I want to use pigments for this. I've seen Prod by Jack cooking up heavily with it. For the tempo, I think we're gonna go for something around 150 maybe. Add some reverb. Now, first I just want to hear the 100% wet signal just to tweak the halftime effect and decide what time signature I want to use. That sounds fire. Maybe we go to one of the Synth Palace kits, or Synth Palace Vintage actually. And maybe we can also pitch up the melodies, so we're actually in C minor. And I feel like with this layer it doesn't need any halftime at all. And maybe we can jump into like the mini moog and get one of the one shots. For this obviously we need some reverb. Now I feel like we need to add some sort of top line texture for a B part, and something that I wanted to use for a while actually is this Arcus Contact Bank, which is super dope. And it has a bunch of just great textures. That bass is sounding thick. Those accents sound crazy, I can't lie. I still feel like we need some sort of, you know, rhythmic layer in here. But maybe we can do this with like a melodic one shot instead of a drum sound. And now, obviously, we want to add the secret sauce again, so we're gonna grab the Grid plugin. Maybe we try this in reverse, so instead of, you know, going down again, we go up. Alright, so I feel like we're done with the first loop. This is what it sounds like. Turned out super fire. This is what we got. Alright, so for the second one, we're gonna go for a really similar vibe, and I found this really nice analog lab preset, and we're just gonna find out like a nice chord progression that we can use. Maybe we just try the grid plugin on this. I don't think it will work, but we can try it. This sounds totally different to what we first had, so now we want to get like another one shot. So something like this maybe. And now I want to have like some sort of accent going. I think we definitely need like a second melody layer. I just think we need like a perk loop. Something like this. Just to convey the speed that we're actually at. Alright, now I think I fucked up this loop somehow on the way. I'm not really satisfied with the end result. It doesn't sound that good. But I also don't really know what I would have to change to make it sound good. So sometimes that is the thing with, you know, making beats and loops. Or with making music in general even. It's just what it is. So I'm gonna play you the final result, and then we're gonna talk about if this plugin is actually worth it. Let's go. Alright, now my final thoughts about the plugin. So, on the one side, it's super dope. If there wasn't halftime already, I'd say this is a really cool effect and revolutionary. Unfortunately, we already have halftime, and like the whole effect has been there for, I don't know, 10 years by now. So, it's not something brand new and exciting, and it's maybe also a little bit overused by now, so wrong time, wrong place maybe. The function is great. The only thing that really bothers me is that you can do all of this with the original plugin mostly. You know, you can't save presets with the original plugin, and you also can't randomize the original plugin, but you know, the main grid function is something that you can technically do with the original plugin and your DAW's automation tracks. So it really brings nothing new to the table, but it rather brings something new to the focus. For $20, it's a fair price. I think Haze is an independent developer, so if you want to get this plugin, it's well worth it to pay full price. If you don't have any halftime plugin at all and you're thinking about getting the original one or something like this, I would probably opt in to get this one, because even though it has less functions as the original one when it comes to the actual like halftime effect, the randomize feature and the preset saving are pretty handy and super dope. So I would probably take that over the original halftime, at least if they were priced the same probably. You can also just stick with the free plugin from Cymatics and use that for all of your beats. It works the same and you can do the same thing basically. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely let me know in the comments what thing I should review next. With that being said, have a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye.